What happens when me and a client of mine approach the same woman back to back?
Excuse me. Hi. I saw you were super cute.
See, dude, like, she didn't even hear you the first time. You need to just say, excuse me. Get her to stop. I actually just saw you walking by. Very slow. I'm gonna go open her. Let's see if I can stop her. Hey, excuse me. Excuse me, 1 second. Hi, I was literally just back there.
Now, I want to show you guys exactly what happened in these back-to-back approaches with the same woman later on in this video. But first, I want to explain how we ended up in this position during the coaching session. See, this client of mine that I was working with in field, Anish, he came into the session as already a pretty decent conversationalist. He's somebody who's been studying this content for quite some time. He's had a high level of success with women, especially on dates, but he wanted to get better with his daytime approaching, especially walking around New York City. So I want to break down for you guys how the coaching session progressed over the hour of us out in the field, as well as the tweaks that we made to get him from not being able to get girls to stop and have a conversation with him, all the way up to having long interactions that led to phone numbers and dates. Now, before we even jump into any of that, if you guys have been watching the content, but you're not getting the results you want, you could click the links down below in the description for an opportunity to work with me directly. There's an application if you want to apply to work with me one-on-one. Now let's talk about what actually happened in this session. So the moment I started with Anish, he was already a decent conversationalist. He's had a high level of success with women in the past. He's had a successful dating life as well. He just hasn't been able to approach women and get them to stop and have full-blown conversations that could lead to dates doing this sober in the daytime. And so when we first started out the session, his very first approach, he actually got into a long interaction. The problem was though, is that he never really tried to get the girl to stop. And so he just walked up next to the woman and he started walking with her. And they had this funny conversation that lasted about 2 or 3 minutes. But the main problem was that he never stopped the woman. And so if you're forever just walking side by side with a woman, you never have that moment where she stops and she's giving you her undivided attention and you're just looking at each other deep into each other's eyes. If you're just walking and you're looking forward the whole time and you kind of look over like this, it's just not as intense of a bubble. It's not as captivating and you can't create as much attraction. You can't create as much tension. It's a lot less direct of communication when you're just walking with somebody. Another thing that I noticed is that since he never tried to stop the girl, even though it seems okay initially, after several minutes of this going on, it starts to create this dynamic that you're literally chasing the woman. Like she's just walking on her own path throughout her day and you're just kind of following her around block after block after block. And don't get me wrong, guys, like there is a time and a place where it makes sense to walk with the woman, but I always suggest initially you should try to get her to stop, because at the end of this interaction, he did get her to stop, but at that point he was 3 minutes in and he had already been chasing her for 3 minutes. And if she stopped at the end of it to tell you she's not interested, she would have at least stopped initially to give you a couple seconds of her time. And so that's really what I explained to Anish. And we then went into a couple more interactions and getting him to start to get comfortable owning and being confident in that initial approach. A lot of guys, if they're not used to approaching, if they haven't done this during the daytime, the biggest struggle that I see is they don't own it and they don't really commit to trying to get the girl to stop in one way or another. They don't open from a very safe distance. They don't talk loud enough. Their body language isn't even committed to actually trying to get the woman to stop. Like they almost hope that the girl isn't gonna stop. They're afraid to disrupt her day. And so it comes off kind of in a weak attempt to actually get the woman to stop. And because of this, a lot of guys get blown out off of the open. And so after we practiced this over and over and over again, there was a couple different conclusions I saw after actually role playing it with Anish and having him practice trying to stop me. Number one, he simply wasn't talking loud enough. He was talking at a normal voice, but understand that when we're in a busy New York street, to really command attention and get somebody to snap out of their own bubble and stop and give you their undivided attention, at least for a couple of seconds, you need to talk louder than you think you do. And this was slightly uncomfortable for him at first, but after practicing it back and forth with him a couple of times and then actually pushing him into a couple more interactions, we were able to get the right volume as well as the right body language. Like he wasn't fully stopping his body. A lot of times when guys go up to approach women, and this is subtle nuances to actually approaching, but a lot of guys, they don't actually stop. It's almost like they're walking with the girl, and trust me that the girl feeds off of your energy. They kind of know subconsciously whether or not you're even committed to trying to get them to stop and talk. And so women can just kind of feel this energy. And what I noticed with Anic was it was kind of this non-committal body language. And so we really had to practice this over and over and over again. The good news is that he's already a good conversationalist. It's more about with him opening really confident, commanding attention, getting the woman's undivided attention, and then carrying a conversation. Now, after a couple of minutes, you could at some point walk with the woman. And that's actually what we ended up telling him later on. But the very first part of the session was really just getting him to commit to stopping a woman, which brings us back to the opening clip that I showed you earlier in this video. After doing this a couple times with him, he still didn't believe that we could actually go in a little bit more, I guess you could say, confident or entitled or slightly more authoritative to get the woman to stop. And so after he approached the girl, I saw that she was actually receptive enough. I told him immediately after, I said, bro, you could have gotten her to stop if you committed more, if you spoke louder, if you actually went for it. I even think I could go up and stop her right now. Granted, she probably is gonna reject me because I'm gonna say the same exact sentence that you just opened with 20 seconds earlier. So it's probably not gonna go anywhere. But let me just show you that I could at least get her to stop and give me 5 to 10 seconds of her undivided attention, because that was the part that he was really failing with. And so that's exactly what happens.
Excuse me. Hi. Just thought you were super cute.
See, dude, like she didn't even hear you the first time. You need to just say, excuse me, get her to stop. I actually just saw you walking by. Very slow. I'm gonna go open her. Let's see if I can stop her. Hey, excuse me. Excuse me, 1 second. Hi, I was literally just back there, and I just thought you looked really cute, honestly. Okay? All right, take care.
And yes, I'm aware that immediately after the open, the girl does start walking away from me. That was totally to be expected, obviously. She just got approached 20 seconds before this with the exact same opener. Like after I say the line, she literally looked back and saw Anic behind me. So like, obviously it wasn't gonna go anywhere. But the whole point was to showcase this idea that if you actually go in entitled, confident, talking loud enough from a safe distance, you can get most women to at least stop for a couple of seconds to hear out your opener and buy you a little bit of time to spark a conversation. And so after displaying that to him and role-playing it with him multiple times and then pushing him into more interactions, we made the necessary adjustments. And then in the second half of the session, once we fixed that problem, what we started to notice was he was actually getting women to stop, and he was starting to run 5 to 10 minute interactions, right? He would actually stop and talk to them for 5 minutes, just looking at them, not walking side by side and looking forward and periodically just kind of talking and laughing over the shoulder as you're blindly following the woman around New York City. He stopped them, had these conversations, and then led them for a couple more blocks and then stopped them again. Right? There was 2 interactions in particular that went over 10 minutes long once we made these adjustments. And the end result is having a much longer interaction, but more importantly, having a long interaction where the woman is giving you her undivided attention. She is not still just walking down the street, looking over your shoulder, and you're following her along having this conversation. It's completely different when somebody stops and they're looking at you just square in the face. Now listen, there's a disclaimer. If you stop a girl and she's extremely busy, like you could tell in her body language after the first couple of seconds, or maybe she even verbalizes it that she is in a hurry, there is a point in the interaction where it may make sense to then pivot and start walking with her. And I'll show you guys me doing this in a variety of different interactions. Like sometimes it happens 30 seconds in, sometimes it happens 5 to 7 minutes in, but you do need to recognize that at some point you may need to pivot and start walking with the woman. I just recommend that you make the attempt to actually stop her first so you can snap her out of whatever she's doing and you have that initial opening to have her undivided attention. And just to show you that once we made this adjustment with Anic, that's how we started actually having long interactions that could lead to dates. So if you're somebody who's not opening, you're not taking much action at all, you're not approaching, or when you do approach, you're getting rejection after rejection and none of these interactions are going to dates, I can help you with this process, guys. The links are down below. You can apply to work with me one-on-one. That's all for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.